Good morning.
Colleagues, I want to call this meeting to order. This is the Committee on Finance. The time is 10:08 on Wednesday, November 20th, 2020. Pursuant to applicable law, the chairman has determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. Accordingly, attendance at this meeting will be by remote means only, and we will now call the roll to establish quorum. Alderman Hopkins.
Present.
Sorry, Alderman Hopkins. Present?
Yeah, is my audio okay?
Yeah, that was mine. I think I just had a glitch there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Dowell.
Here.
Alderman King. Alderman King.
I'm coming for you.
Alderman Hairston. Vice Chair Hairston.
Present.
Thank you. Alderman Sawyer.
Here.
Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Here.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Alderman Sadowski Garza.
Here.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Cardenas.
Present.
Alderman Quinn.
Here.
Alderman Burke.
Here.
Alderman Raymond Lopez.
Originally present, Chairman.
I see you there. Alderman Moore. Alderman Curtis.
Here.
Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins.
Alderman Brookins here.
Alderman Tabares.
Alderman Tabares here, present.
Alderman Scott.
Present. What are you trying to do?
Alderman Burnett.
Present.
Alderman
David
Irvin.
Moore is present.
Thank you. Alderman Irvin.
Alderman Irvin is present.
You on the phone?
Alderman Taliaferro.
Alderman Taliaferro is present.
Alderman Roboris.
Present.
Chairman is present. Alderman Austin.
Here.
Alderman Villegas.
Present.
Alderman Mitz. Alderman Mitz. Alderman Napolitano.
Present.
Alderman Riley.
It's me.
Alderman
Riley is present.
Thank you. Alderman Smith.
Present.
Alderman Tunney.
Present.
Alderman Osterman.
Present.
Alderman Silverstein.
Present.
Nick
Alderman
Sposato was missed.
Okay.
Get me, Chairman. Nick Sposato.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Alderman
you.
King. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 35 members present. We have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Alderman Irvin. I'd like the record to reflect Alderman King's absence due to a death in the family of her father, and she's out of state. So just wanted the record to reflect that.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll make note of that. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a quorum. We're now going to open the floor for public comment. At this time, we have 6 speakers signed up for public comment, and the first person is Michael Widmeyer. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Widmeyer. That's *6 if you're trying to get unmuted. Why don't we come back to Mr. Widmeyer? Next person up will go
I'm here.
to
Can you hear me?
Kevin.
Hello?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, we can
sorry,
hear
I don't
you.
know what was going on. Okay.
That's okay.
Good morning,
Go ahead and start.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman Hairston, and members of the City Council. I'm Michael Wiedmeyer, the Executive Director of the Underground Contractors Association of Illinois. UCA of Illinois is a construction trade association engaged in all forms of utility infrastructure construction. Over 200 member firms that support tens of thousands of Chicago jobs in construction, related professional services, and supporting services like trucking, ready-mix manufacturing, heavy equipment, and more. One of Chicago's, I'm here to talk about the pending vote on a capital infrastructure plan. And one of Chicago's strongest assets is its infrastructure, from providing safe drinking water, clean sanitary storm, and keeping our economy moving through the roads, bridges, aviation, and mass transit. You know, the infrastructure literally carries the city to success. The second most important issue that corporate executives identify when making decisions on where to locate is adequate, safe, and reliable infrastructure. And Chicago economy is dependent upon safe and reliable roads, bridges, public transit, air, rail, and navigable waterways. As we look for ways to help lift the economy out of the recession from COVID, investing in the infrastructure will create economic benefits. It strengthens competitiveness of the city and the state, raises GDP, creating jobs and increasing wages. We need leadership at every level to work together to ensure a reliable infrastructure for future generations to come. Investing in water and transportation is investing in our future and should happen jointly. Each construction job adds almost 4 jobs to the economy, and for every dollar spent, there's a return of $6.35 in long-term GDP. And poll after poll shows that the public is willing to pay more for safe drinking water, clean water, and transportation infrastructure, as we saw the support from the capital bill from Illinois and that they passed in 2019. Public health and safety and quality of life shouldn't be compromised. I ask that you please vote yes on the capital plan. Thank you for your time and consideration. Everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. And next we will move to Kevin Arnold. Kevin Arnold. Kevin, you'll need to use *6 to unmute yourself.
Good morning, Chairman, and thank you for having me here today to support the Chicago Capital Plan. I'm Kevin Arnold, President and CEO of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Illinois. We're the voice of the engineering industry in Illinois, representing over 200 engineering firms and affiliates, and there are over 11,000 employees. Before I begin, I'd like to especially thank Alderman Villegas for all his work and engagement on city infrastructure issues. I'd also like to thank the city agencies like CDOT, CDA, CTA, and Water that through the COVID crisis kept work advancing to keep people employed and ensure that our transportation and public health infrastructure was maintained. We truly appreciate the city's commitment to keep working, and we are doing our part to continue our essential work in a safe manner. ACEC Illinois is a diverse association representing a diverse industry. We represent firms with just 1 employee to firms with over 5,000. Our current board chair is a president of a DBE firm located in Chicago, and DBE firms are well represented on our board of directors. Overall, we have 58 DBEs, 30 WBEs, and 45 MBEs among our membership. Our industry is a reflection of Illinois, and while it is a competitive industry, our members take great pride in the teamwork it requires to deliver a project. Infrastructure investment makes a difference for everyone. It makes our bridges safer, it makes our commute shorter, and our water cleaner. It's also the catalyst for economic development. The DBE community in the engineering industry is heavily engaged in infrastructure projects, and the continued investment has allowed our firms the opportunity to expand and grow. In Chicago alone, you have seen firms grow from 1 person to 5 to 15 and onward rapidly because of the level of investment in infrastructure, along with the commitment of leaders like yourselves and agencies who assist, support, and encourage DBE participation at both the prime and subcontracting levels. The continued commitment in this proposed legislation will further advance DBE participation in Chicago projects, but more than that, it will grow firms. If passed, you will see more first-time firms participating in Chicago projects, and you will see small firms grow to mid-sized firms, and mid-sized firms grow to large firms. Employment will increase, and all the ancillary benefits that come with it to local communities. Simple truth is, infrastructure investment brings great equity and opportunity. The investment you make today will help create new Chicago businesses. It will give opportunity to more Chicagoans to grow their businesses, and it will provide jobs to thousands of people. In short, it will change lives and provide hope. And it has the potential to improve Chicago. A Chicago Infrastructure Capital Fund would provide the city with flexibility to redesign and rethink its approach to transit to not only boost economic development, but also synergize intermodal transit. In short, the city become a transit model for the nation. Illinois and the city of Chicago are home to some of the most forward-thinking, innovative engineers and planners in the world. We would welcome the opportunity to partner with your leadership at CDOT, CTA, CDA, and Water to create a plan that is ready for the challenges of the next 50 years. In closing, Chairman, on behalf of ACEC Illinois, thank you for your commitment to advancing these conversations, and we urge your full support for this measure. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Arnold. Next up, we will have Tom Kusilich. Mr. Kusilich.
Good morning.
Mr. Kusilich, there you go. We got you. Go ahead and state your name. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tom Kukulich, Executive Director of the Chicagoland Associated General Contractors. Thank you, Chairman Wigsback, Vice Chairman Hairston, and members of the City Council. We at Chicagoland General Contractors, CAGC, stand in support of the five-year capital plan, which is before the City Council for your consideration. The CAGC is a nonprofit association of union contractors, which represent over 220 members, 10,000 employees, and over $12 billion in economic annual activity in Northeastern Illinois. Our association is committed to minority participation, and our members consistently meet or exceed your city guidelines. While we are primarily private builders, we do believe the City of Chicago's public infrastructure program will fuel much needed economic recovery as it addresses the decades-long backlog of needed projects and deferred maintenance. We are impressed that the program priorities were developed based on need in a data-driven process, which allows us to be supportive of the 2021 and 2022 funding proposal in the FY 2021 budget as well. Thank you for allowing CAGC to offer this public comment, and thank you for your dedication to Chicago and its residents.
Thank you, Mr. Kukulich. Next up, we will have Robert Santana. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Just hit *6. Thank you.
Got it. Good morning. Yes, good morning to everyone here on this call. My name is Robert Santana. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of Teamsters Local 700. Our members proudly serve the City of Chicago, Cook County, and State of Illinois. But I'm here today to speak on the City of Chicago budget and support and asking for support on this budget. Our members are the garbage collection truck drivers, snowplow drivers on the streets and the airports. We work also in the water department, CDOT, and in-house construction as well, and many other departments that haven't listed, but you guys know where they're at. So again, I'm speaking on behalf of the Teamsters and our members, all the brothers and sisters, and we're asking to pass this. We're asking the council and the committee to pass and support the pandemic budget. As you know, this pandemic has affected all of us in many different ways. Some of the ways have hit closer to home, and unfortunately, some of our employees and members have made the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives. But we continue to work together in this struggle every day. Our members are reporting to work, making sure that the vital and essential services are being afforded to our tax-paying residents. I would also like to speak a little bit about the commitment that the unions, the Chicago union specifically, and the COOP have been working together on with the City of Chicago councilman and councilwoman and the mayor's office during this entire crisis, and most recently trying to figure out ways to save money on this budget and get it passed. I know that it's a tough budget because there are some modest property tax increases in there, but we feel as a whole this is a small price to pay for the essential services and to keep the city running the way we've always known. I believe it's a nationally renowned city and the services we provide. We know there's no easy answer to solving this budget crisis, and we look forward to continuing on collaborating the unions and the city council and the mayor to make sure that we avoid layoffs, because the layoffs would definitely have a negative impact on the services that I had just mentioned and many others, again, for our city residents. In closing, I would definitely like to ask for your full support from this committee and all the aldermen and our mayor for the passing of this pandemic budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santana, and we do appreciate your comments and all those of everyone out there who has worked through this pandemic and made sacrifice, especially those who've lost their lives, as you stated. So we appreciate you pointing that out. Next up, we will have Mr. George Perez. Mr. Perez, just hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, Chairman? Good morning,
Yes,
Chairman
we can.
Wagasback. Good morning, Chairman Wagasback and members of the Finance Committee. On behalf of our Board of Directors and our over 300 members, the Hispanic American Construction Industry Association, HACIA, would like to extend our support for this 5-year capital plan currently being proposed. My name is Jorge Perez, and I'm the Executive Director of HACIA. And just as a note, in fact, we would actually ask that this dollar amount be increased to $5 billion. In our 41st year, HACIA represents over 300 construction companies, professional service firms, and construction-related businesses that employ thousands of workers. HACIA's memberships include not only Hispanic firms, but other minority and women-owned enterprises as well. Now, Hispanics have a strong entrepreneurial spirit, and many have taken the opportunity to establish businesses and obviously construction businesses throughout Chicago during the last decade, from retailers to general contractors, but also to architectural and professional service firms. Hispanics will continue to be deep-rooted in the economic, social, and political foundation of Chicago, the region, and the country. This plan is crucial for the economic competitiveness of Chicago and its future. We come to this support because of the combination of factors and its complementary effects of the proposed increase in capital infrastructure investment, other public and privately funded projects over the next several years in which it complements, and the need to maintain and fund deferred maintenance and underfunded projects. We ask for the $5 billion to ensure bridges and major arterial streets are developed. And just as a personal side note, as a resident of the mighty 10th Ward, I really hope we get the dollars to ensure that our bridges are all at a state of good repair. This capital program will allow for our members of HACIA and other MWB firms to grow. Now more than ever, when diversity and inclusion is finally being embraced at a very high level. I mean, every organization that's going to be on here that isn't particularly focused on a demographic group is finally saying and embracing diversity and inclusion in what they do. And we need to keep that going as well. And so for that, and as well as the return on investment, clearly will benefit all of Chicago. So again, on behalf of our Board of Directors and members of HACIA, we ask for your favorable vote and approval of this capital plan. Again, my name is Jorge Perez. Thank you, Chairman Wagasback.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. We appreciate you coming on today. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Ryan Kelly.
Good morning, Chairman
Good
Wagisback and Team Alderman. How are you guys all doing today? My name is Ryan Kelly. I'm a business representative with the Machinist Union, Local 126, and the Machinist District 8 State Council. I'm also a CFL delegate. I'm reaching out today on behalf of the hardworking members of our local who've been working long hours throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, not only as a representative, but also as a colleague, having worked within the city departments myself. I want to thank all of you for your efforts throughout the pandemic and for lending an ear today. It goes without saying, but I believe everyone present can recognize that the amount of dedication and sacrifice put forth by city employees throughout these challenging times has been gigantic. Whether it's something as menial as meeting additional demand, which there's been, or more serious like risking their own health and their family's health to maintain quality services, many have trudged on this last 8 months. Many a little more worn, I don't know, I'd say a little more worse for wear, but I still think they're proud that they're helping, and I think they see the results of that. Sadly, some of them have lost their lives due to exposure to COVID-19, like Department of AIS employee David Veloz. David was a spouse, a father, a grandfather, a Navy veteran, and obviously a citizen of our city as well. He was the 4th city employee to pass away back at the beginning of the pandemic when there really wasn't even a handle on how to handle the whole situation. How do we social distance? How do we spread out workers and all that stuff? Our members and all city employees have undoubtedly proven their commitment to our citizens, and union leadership in return is working closely with the mayor's office and members of the city council to create solutions to problems no one could have ever anticipated just 1 short year ago. It's not lost on any of us the financial reality that we're all faced, either as representatives, workers, or citizens, something we are all at least 2 of. Specifically, over the last few weeks, we've worked hard on collaborating with frontline workers, the healthcare experts and consultants, and the labor realm to form recommendations of potential savings for the city to assist with the dire budgetary constraints that we're looking at. These savings can be used to avert any layoffs to the public worker staff, and while there is certainly more that could be extrapolated with more work, an agreement was reached that could save 350 city worker jobs, which was mission critical for us given the circumstances, and that we did not have much time to really put everything together and then deploy and research as much as we would have liked to. But at the end of the day, to me, that's 350 more people out there in our neighborhoods and wards spending money in the city economy, something that I think is critical in these times as we're seeing small businesses shutter. It's well.
Mr. Ryan, thank you for your comments. We appreciate you coming on today and sharing your thoughts with us. And again, we appreciate everybody that has come on and commented about the situation that we're in this pandemic. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know, we will have the CFO here and the budget director. In terms of order, I'm going to call on members of the Committee on Finance first. We will keep it to a 10-minute max question period and then come back for a second round. And then I will make sure that I call non-members as well, as I've always done in the past. But I just want you to know that we will all be able to speak. Everyone will have their questions answered. Doing these Zoom calls is difficult. So if you are calling for a point of information, just please say point of information, Alderman X, and I will try to make sure that you get that point of information in. But please be respectful of both our colleagues and of the public, and everyone will have an opportunity to be heard today. So thank you for that. Now, our first item of business on the agenda is the approval of the Rule 45 report for the month of October. Are there any questions or corrections that aldermen have for the Rule 45 report?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the Rule 45 by a roll call vote from Alderman Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And the ayes have it on a motion to approve based on the roll call vote to establish quorum. Thank you, Alderman Lopez. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move to item number 2. This is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to approve the levy of real estate taxes for the city of Chicago for the year 2021. And let's see. We're going to start out with Budget Director Susie Park, who will explain briefly the levy. And I just want to state too that I appreciate everybody working through that meeting that we had yesterday and the good questions that we had. So hopefully there was some clarification there. And with that, I will hand it over to the Budget Director.
Thank you, Chairman.
Go ahead, Susie.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Wagasback, Vice Chairman Hairston, and members of the Committee on Finance. Thank you for allowing me to join you today to discuss the City of Chicago's property tax levy for 2021. As we discussed yesterday during our Truth in Taxation hearing, the 2021 property tax levy that is before you today totals $1,632,926,000. This is an increase of $93.9 million compared to the total 2020 property tax levy and includes a $35.4 million Consumer Price Index or CPI adjustment, $42.5 million to cover loss of collections for the pension contribution portion of the levy, and $16 million increase to account for the new property declaration completed over the last year. The 2021 property tax levy is allocated to cover general obligation bonds, a portion of the contributions to the city's 4 pension funds, library maintenance and operations, and the city college's bond payment for which the city is responsible. The amount of the levy used to make pension payments has increased $403.5 million over the 2020 levy, and this is partially offset by a $309.6 million decrease in the amount of the levy used for debt service on general obligation and city colleges bonds. The amount of the levy used to pay for library maintenance and operations is unchanged from 2020. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Park. So please use the raise your hand function. And does anyone have any questions? Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of quick questions just for clarity purposes. So the tax levy is increasing $403 million, correct?
No, the tax levy is increasing by $93.9 million.
Well, but you're applying the one-time revenue fix to bring it down to 93, correct?
So the pension portion is increasing by $403 million. And then to your point, the debt service is being lowered by $309.6 million.
Okay, so we're looking at a tax levy increase of 403. So next year, when we don't have the luxury of decreasing or plugging that hole with the one-time fix, next year's increase will reflect a $403 million tax levy, correct?
That is not correct.
That is not correct.
No, we are not. Next year's levy will not be an increase of $403 million.
But aren't you applying a one-time fix of 300 and some million to this to bring it down to the 93?
No, the out-year forecast for the budget already incorporates that increase in debt service.
Hold on a second. Ms. Bennett, could you just state your name for the record, please?
Sure, thank you. It's Jenny Bennett, the Chief Financial Officer. The out-year budget gap already includes that increase for debt service. And as is the case with the city's budget and debt service in previous years, those amounts that are not covered by this pension levy, which we expect to carry forward at these current levels, would be covered by the corporate fund.
Okay, so the following year, what would the tax levy potentially be next year?
So next year, what we are talking about, which I know is coming up in revenue ordinance, will be an increase to the CPI for the 22 levy.
Which will be how much?
I believe right now we don't know, but if you do it at roughly 2%, it will be similar to this year. I think it's about 35 million.
Okay. So with that
Also-
32, would that 32 or 33 be on top of the 403, or would it be on top of the 93?
The 93.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Beal. Next, we will have Alderman Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning again, ladies. Susie, I think I asked you yesterday in regards to reducing the numbers down to $1 on our vacancies. How did we do on that? Did you do the calculations regarding that information?
So we have not done a dollar budget in the past. One of the things I did look into is, Alderman Burke's question about the number of vacancies and what remains for next year. I think part of this is we have already offset the speed of hiring through some of the turnover calculation that is included in the appropriation ordinance for timing of filling of those vacancies.
But have the dollar amount been reduced?
The dollar amount has not been reduced currently.
But if you reduce them down to all of the existing ones down to $1, would that save us tremendously?
So what we did find yesterday, per the request, was that we have about 1,000 vacancies going into 2021. The total value of that is about 80 million. If we reduce the and then we take out the turnover adjustments that we are including, it's about $62 million. So, I guess bringing that down to $1 potentially would be about 62 million. But, I think it's part of, bringing them down to $1 and then, how do we then, there's a service impact. There are decisions about which titles to do that for. And then what we, how we bring that back up.
As you hire, bring it back up as you hire. You left at 52,000. If you hire in that position, you can bring it back up at 52,000. Well, it would be 51 then because you're down to $1.
I think the issue then is if we bring the actual appropriation down to $1 and you save that money, then when you actually have to hire and fill that position, then you don't have the offset for that difference. What we have done is, based on hiring schedules and speed of hiring, adjusted for that in the turnover calculation. But if you bring it down to $1 and then let's say we save that, we don't have the revenues on the revenue side. We don't have that dollar amount to hire when they're hired to bring them back up.
I think we'll have to talk about this some more because
Okay.
that's not 100% true. Because I
Okay.
know that the other side of the aisle is doing it, county side. All right then. Yeah, we'll have to talk about this some more.
Okay.
I
I'm
know
happy to
that
reach out to
you're
you.
doing a great job on this part because I know you're trying to save in every penny that we can. And you and Jenny have done an outstanding job. I'd have to say that. This is a very stiff budget, but we got to get through it. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Austin. Next up, we have Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Chair. Jenny, let's go back to pensions because during the decades of the 2000s, we avoided some pension contributions in order for us to not face a property tax hike. I remember those years. So let's go through the numbers in 2021. And do you have a history of our pension contributions going back at least, 10, 15 years?
Somewhere I probably do, yes.
Well, because I want to talk about that because I think that it's good to show the differences between years when we don't put as much as we're putting in the pension contributions right now. So your 2021 is $403 million, correct?
So for 2021, if you're asking for the amount paid for from the property tax levy, the proposal is $1.3 billion of pension levy going towards our pension contribution.
And what is in year 2022?
In 2022, we don't expect the levy portion to change, but in 2022, our total pension contribution goes from $1.8 billion to $2.2 billion.
Obviously, large difference. And then go to 2023. What's the pension contribution?
The pension contribution goes from 2.2 to 2.3 billion.
So hence our pressure in the numbers in terms of meeting those obligations at those levels.
Yeah.
Be good to look at years back to see what our contributions were and see the difference between making a decision of doing something like this and the levy that obviously all of us have consternation on this.
Right.
I want to be able to compare that to see that, in fact, it's not being done because, you're not being prudent and judicious with expenses. It's just the fact that we didn't do some of those things years ago, and we're having to face the music right now.
Right.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. And to your point about previous years, for many years, the city paid its pension contribution based on a multiplier of payroll, which ultimately did not meet the actuarial requirement, which in essence is what independent experts say we should be paying to make sure our pension funds are solvent. That's in large part why we, over the last several years, have been ramping up towards that actuarial funding. In 2020, for the first time in the city's history, we were able to climb the actuarially determined calculation for police and fire. And then the significant ramp up in 2022 is in large part because of the muni labor ramp up, after which we will have climbed to actuarial funding for all of our pension funds. So in short, it really is, kind of an important time for the city, because over the last couple years, as well as the next couple years, we are doing the hard work of climbing our pension ramp and putting us on a path to sustainability there.
Yeah, I think it's important. And again, years ago, we just faced those choices and we decided not to raise property taxes. Now I'm not going to go back and relive those years, but I think those were the decisions. Mm-hmm. And I was happy to have a budget that didn't do any heavy lifting. That didn't require for me to do anything heavy. I'm like, whoa, God, that's an easy budget. But in fact, there were no easy budgets. The fact that we're just kind of doing what we could to not face the hard consequences of this. And this is what I like about being real in terms of numbers. And I applaud you guys for doing this. I'd rather face the music now than face the music, years from now, which just becomes harder and harder as we're facing this today. And the debate goes on as to what this levy should be, and the choices that we make when it comes to our liabilities. So I just wanted to talk about those numbers. But I think, if you don't have the numbers now, I do want to go back and look at the history of contributions so we can see what is happening in the past and what we're doing right now, which is the right thing to do, by the way. Mm-hmm. So that's why I just want to focus on those contributions to see and highlight for a lot of us what didn't happen then.
Mm-hmm. This is Susie. I just want to on page 57 of the overview book, we do show kind of the history starting from 2004 all the way through 2026. So to Johnny's point, what you will see on that chart is that from 2004 to 2014, it was pretty. We weren't keeping up with the increase. We just put the same amount annually. And then the growth you see is from 2015 through our future.
Which was mandated by is it the General Assembly when legislation was enacted forcing us to be on this path, correct?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
It's
Is
2015.
there such a thing as a pension holiday? No such a thing as a pension holiday?
No such thing. There's no such thing.
No.
I'm asking, I'm like, because if there was, maybe we wouldn't be having to face a property tax.
It's not really a holiday because, then we have to pay the piper later.
All right, well, thank you, and I'll go back to the questions. I'll let other members kind of weigh in as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I motion that we pass item 2 by a roll call vote.
Second.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a motion to pass item number 2. I will not pass it by the previous vote that we took on the quorum. This would be by a roll call vote. So we have a motion on the table, motion for approval by roll call vote by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Burnett.
Chairman.
Can I motion to accept that we do it by the roll call, by which quorum was that?
To establish quorum.
I object to that, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Yeah, roll call vote, please.
Chairman.
All right. Alderman Burke. Alderman Burke.
I think he's muted.
We have a motion to call the roll.
No, Mr. Chairman, would you please restate what the motion is and on what is the subject matter?
Yes, sir. The motion is move to pass on item number 2 on the agenda for the communication recommending a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to approve the levy of real estate taxes for the city of Chicago for the year 2021. That's item 2 on the agenda.
Well, are we going to be able to continue to inquire of the witnesses?
I make the motion, point of order. I make the motion because no one had their hand raised for any further questions.
Well, I've been trying. I don't know if there's something wrong with my machine here.
Maybe we should ask, if there are any other questions for the members. Maybe that's.
Then I withdraw my motion until the last person speaks, Mr. Chairman.
I do have the motion on the table from Alderman Harris, but I'm going to have Alderman Burke speak first to ask his questions.
Come on.
Alderman.
See, we can find an agenda.
Alderman Burke.
I'll have it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please mute your phones or your Zoom. And Alderman Burke, you may proceed to ask question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the witnesses referred to some of the issues that were discussed yesterday. And I also believe that now they have concluded there are about 1,000 vacant positions in the proposed budget. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, Alderman. We did pull that information per your request. So that is what we have for next year.
That was emailed out to everyone.
As we know today. I will caveat that, but yes.
I'm awash in documents that have been emailed. So if I haven't gotten to that one yet, I apologize. But I've got a stack of documents here that are relating to the bond issues. But I believe yesterday, Ms. Park, you indicated you were going to break down also how many of those vacancies existed in public safety departments.
Yes, I did send the list and it is broken down by departments. But I will say, of the 1,008, between police and fire alone, it's over 600.
Okay. And is it your testimony that those 800 positions are to be filled in the near future?
Yes, that is the work that we are trying to do for next year.
And you're aware, of course, that in order to get a police officer or a firefighter on the street and functioning, it requires considerable training. Is that correct?
Yes, I am aware.
And how much time elapses between the time that a recruit for the police department or fire department is certified as eligible and the background investigation and related personnel matters are concluded?
Between when they're a candidate to when they start the training program, Alderman, is that the question?
Between the time that they're certified as eligible for hiring and when they are put into the academy, how much time elapses?
That is a good question. I think it differs between fire and police. I could say from my experience, between when you are called off the list to when you are starting at the academy, there is, I don't know the exact amount, but I do know it takes some time.
You know what? I'm sorry.
That it does take some time.
So at the very best, it's not like these 800 positions are going to be filled in January. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And they're not going to be filled in February, are they?
I do not know about February. I do know that with police and fire, we have worked through a tentative hire plan. And so we have already accounted for in their turnover, the speed at which they are hiring. Also, I do want to say that not all the vacancies are at the entry level. And so, they don't have the full cadre at this point, but because of the promotions that they are also planning to do, which we know, empties back out at the entry level, that staggered hiring is also taken into account in the budget.
Well, one might argue that if they were indeed critical and necessary, they would have been filled already, couldn't one?
I think the discussion has been the speed due to COVID at which they were able to hire this year. And we have accounted for that next year with a smaller class size for both police and fire and a staggered hiring schedule.
And again, tell me what you place the dollar value at for these 1,000 vacancies.
Just the dollar value, I believe, is about 80 million. And then we offset that by the turnover calculation, which is about 18, I believe. And then so what remains is about 62.2 million.
What's the total amount of loss and collection for this year?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Loss and collection, what's the total amount you're estimating?
Oh, for the loss of collections portion of it?
Yes.
Of the property tax, it is 42.5 million.
And this, of course, is an art that you are engaged in, not a science, correct?
On turnover or the loss?
Or any of these estimates, revenue estimates, how fast you can fill the vacancies, what the loss and collection is going to be, what the turnover is going to be. These are all your best estimates, are they not?
Yes, it is a mixture of art and science. Yes.
It is more an art than science, I would suggest. And obviously, you've put a lot of work into this. But I do, as I said before, hope that you'll be a hero and figure out, going back to some of these estimates, how this property tax can be avoided, because I think you can tell from your testimony yesterday and the questions that were posed, there's a great reluctance on the part of the members to go ahead with this particular levy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, committee. Good morning, Jenny and Susie. A couple things I just would like to touch on real quickly, and thank you again for all of your testimony yesterday. The property tax is still included in this ordinance, correct, for this levy of $94 million? That is correct?
Yes, it's included in the levy.
The $309 million that Alderman Beal was alluding to, that came from what you stated in the beginning, but just so that we're all clear.
The $309.6 million decrease is the decrease in debts in the debt service portion of the levy.
So theoretically, one could say that we actually were expecting to see a $309 million decrease in our tax levy this year, had it not been for COVID and some of these other things, correct?
No, that is offset due to the refinancing that the CFO is working through. That is also being proposed.
That was included in the, calculated in the refinancing. But if we had not refinanced, it would have been a decrease in the levy, correct? The point that I'm trying to get to is that the true nature of how much money that we're actually shifting from property taxes back to to our budget is actually that whole the total 403 million, which otherwise would have been or could have possibly been decreased back to our taxpayers, correct?
No, that's not a true statement. The levy would have remained exactly where it is currently. It would have likely not included the 94 million increase, which, as we talked about yesterday, but it would not have been a $309 million decrease.
Okay. Our general obligation bonds that we have, when we look at our overview, we see that, $5.6 billion of our budget goes towards general financing. A lot of that, I'm assuming, deals with debt service and things of that nature. How much is our total amount of debt being paid, debt service payments for this year in this budget?
2020 or 2021?
2021.
For 2021, we have $604 million in debt service currently. And
so
does not include the STSC, which is in addition to that.
Which has yet to be, which is item number 4 or 5 on the budget, correct? Or today's agenda?
No, I believe that item, if you're referring to the bond resolution, it's both STSC and GO together.
Okay. Now, if you were to incorporate that, what would that put our obligation for? Assuming that all of those were to get passed.
In 2021, the STSC is $165 million. So $770 million.
Okay. The reason that I'm asking is because obviously our GO bonds are usually tied to property taxes. The other part is tied to the sales taxes. The concern that I have is that we're running out of revenue to keep borrowing against, in my opinion. This tax levy is 1.6 billion. This year's debt is more than half that. If we, were to approve the securitization bonds and things of that nature. Even on its own, we're still talking about almost half just on the 604 current debt. At what point do we reach a tipping point where we've actually borrowed out more than we can raise and repay in a single year?
So I think the answer to your question, Alderman, is what are we planning for in terms of getting to overall structural balance?
No, no. My question is, at what point have we borrowed and committed ourselves to more than we can collect and pay in a year? That is my question.
Okay.
To put it in a real world perspective, if my paycheck isn't enough to cover all of my credit cards, I clearly have too many credit cards and I have to start cutting back. At what point do we does the city of Chicago experience that same situation?
Okay, well, I mean, in that real world example, you would increase your revenues or decrease your expenses to basically cover your revenues and expenses plus debt service, which is that structural balance that I speak to. That's how you would cover and know that you have sufficient revenues, less expenses you pay in your home to pay that mortgage that you have to pay. And it's the same, here. Ultimately, we have to make sure that our overall plan for revenues and expenses are enough to cover our debt service and our pension liability, which is ultimately what structural balance is about.
Right, I understand that. But my concern is that we are approaching a tipping point where our obligations are more than what we can pay for. That we can't just magically keep raising taxes on people, particularly when they are struggling to cover those, even if we're using credit cards and debt to try and balance a budget. So while I'm not really getting the answer that I'm asking for, the question that I have still remains, and I leave that with my colleagues to think about as well, is that we are borrowing some more to try to balance this budget. But we're not keeping track of our ability to pay our bills. And that very much concerns me as we're moving forward. You know, I know we're even borrowing to avoid the layoffs. But what happens for next year for those 350 individuals? At what point do we run out of borrowing options because we simply do not have the revenue sources coming in to generate more bonds, to do more borrowing, especially as we have a capital plan that will eventually come before City Council, and as everything else gets securitized and monetized for future spending, for future revenue, for current spending, we run out of options for the here and now. And I just offer that as a word of caution and hope that you can provide some answers to that context, because I think that is a very real concern. One of my colleagues said that, you know, inaction from years past brought us to this point. And I dare say almost half this council has taken some of the strongest steps to try to put our city and our pensions and our future in the right place to move forward, so that we're not putting off the inevitable on our future children and grandchildren. But I feel like we're doing that again, and I don't like being a party to that. So I would ask that you either provide some context for that, show us how we're not doing that, or come up with something other than we just have to raise revenue. Because in the real world, you can't just walk in and tell your boss, I don't have enough money for my bill, so I deserve a 10% raise. That's not how that works. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Moore?
Thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Moore?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question, because some well thought out ideas in terms of vacancies was brought up, but what impact could those vacancies have on service?
So, you know, I know we've talked a lot, and I know all the aldermen have spoken with a lot of the departments also as they came before you. But, you know, we have taken what you see in the current appropriation and the level of position reductions that we have done is kind of right where we are without impacting service. So the remaining vacancies are, you know, like I said, a bulk of them are police and fire. We have, you know, and then the remainder, a bulk of them are in our infrastructure departments. And so we have very much tried to balance, you know, reducing our spend as a government while also trying to maintain the number of positions needed to ensure, you know, the services that our residents are relying on. So I think, you know, what you have before you in the appropriation and what's left is, you know, where our department heads have said, like, these are absolutely critical. We need to get these filled so that we can continue providing these services and improve. So that's what you have in the appropriation.
I definitely appreciate that, because given like this is a tough budget, but that wouldn't be nothing more devastating for our residents, that service will be greatly impacted as well. So definitely appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Harris?
I wish to renew my motion to approve item 2, but I see 2 more hands have been raised.
Yes, mine is very quick.
Alderman Lopez, let me go to Alderman Dowell first, please.
Yes.
Alderman Dowell?
Yes, I wanted to ask Jenny, the loss of collection is anticipated for 2021. The administration's goal is to have that removed for subsequent budgets. Just want to.
I think, Chairman,
Were you able to hear that?
Your question is that it's a one-time increase as opposed to, say, for example, CPI, which is an ongoing increase.
Right.
So there's a distinction there between other components of the property tax.
All right, and what is the sunset year for CPI that's in the ordinance again?
It's the end of the pension ramp, and I believe that year is, Susie,
I believe it's 2058. Let me pull it.
Yeah, that's correct. It's 2058.
It's 20 from 2021 through 2058, Chairman.
All right, and the thinking currently is that this would be the necessary increase annually by CPI going forward.
Yes, in order to cover our pension costs.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a point of information on that, please. Chairman Wagasback, did you hear me?
Yes, sir. Alderman Tunney, point of information.
So I understand, Jeannie and Susie, that you're forecasting whatever is 1.7 or increase on the cost of living, but I remember the ordinance gives the ability to be a cap at 5%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance does have a cap of 5% or CPI, whichever is lower.
Yeah. Okay, that was my point of information. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Dowell? Chairman Dowell, sorry.
No, they answered my question. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Lopez, coming back to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Real briefly, I want to touch back on something that was mentioned yesterday during yesterday's hearings, that the revenue projections that were originally used when this budget was put together, those projections are falling short even for the coming year, especially as we see a resurgence of COVID. Does this levy take that into account as well, that our ask is maybe wrong or insufficient to what we need for next year based on the declining economy?
At this point, hotel tax revenues are less. We do have a couple other revenue sources that have been a bit more. And so in the totality of all our revenue sources, we believe that the current budget proposal is sufficient to cover what we believe we'll need for 2021. I think the point that was made yesterday is that there is risk in either direction, really, as it relates to those revenue projections, because they're as good as the information we have at this point.
So I agree that, our information is very limited, and especially when we don't know, there's a lot of hope built into this and a lot of discussion talking about what a future administration might bring to the city of Chicago. That being said, is there any discussion? I know that Illinois State Code requires us to have a budget ready by the end of this year, but the state statute also gives us an opportunity to go into the oncoming year under the current budget. It basically says that a municipality may pass a continuing annual budget ordinance. The municipality may expend funds during the first quarter of the fiscal year before the municipality has adopted the combined annual and appropriations ordinance. Has there been any thought on the possibility of maintaining as we are until we get a better and clearer picture of what both our federal support and what our financial outlook may be for the 2020 year based on what we spend now, so that we're not committing ourselves to more than what our taxpayers can fund?
Susie, do you want to speak to the statutory requirement?
Well, so I think, Alderman, as you said, we are required to pass a budget by the end of the year. In terms of for January, I mean, we have contractual requirements that we need to have in place, such as our levy for pension purposes. We also have contractual required increases, that are required at the beginning of the year. So it is not, really possible for us to just continue this year's budget into next year.
Well, you are required to have a budget by December. That's section 2 of the state statute. Section 3 says you can continue under the current levy and that it will be charged back once it is finally approved by the end of the first quarter. So my question is, as we're waiting to see what evolves moving forward, was this a consideration? Because I think that if we have a lot of questionable speculation, what you and Alderman Berg said was the art versus the science of budgeting, would it not make more sense to hold off as we just move forward and wait to see what the final outcomes are, to see if we actually do in fact have the revenue or need more or can ask for less from our taxpayers?
No, we've had a lot of discussion around different options into kind of what the 2021 budget would look like. However, for the various reasons I talked about, we do not think it's possible to carry over the current budget into next year. I agree. There is a bit of uncertainty, but what we have tried to do with this budget is to include revenue and costs that we have as a resource today. So I am confident that the budget that we've presented is a good one for 2021 with what we know today. We don't assume federal funding at the moment. We're working with the tools we have. We've said that if something comes up at the federal level, we will bring it back to council and then have that discussion.
Okay, and then thank you. And then lastly, Chairman, thank you. The 350 positions that we are saving, did we ever get a list of what those exact job positions and titles were?
We did not provide a list. I think there was, because, due to the timing of when these layoffs were going to happen, which was not until March, there was sensitivity around that, employees had not been notified even prior to, when we released the budget. So a list was not provided.
So we have no idea what the positions actually were, who they or what they were, correct? Still? We're all under the assumption that that actually was in fact the case, that they were going to be laid off.
There were positions, but we did not put them publicly because of
or with their labor group.
I'm sorry,
So or with their collective bargaining unit, were they informed as well? Who potentially could be? So for example, we had a number of individuals that spoke out on behalf of unions saying that our members are members, but my understanding is that most people did not know if any of their members were in fact impacted by layoffs. So was that question ever answered even to them?
We did not provide a list because again, we were not going to enact. If we were going to do the layoffs, they were not going to happen until March. And so, again, part of this was the discussion we've had with labor. We were also trying to see what would happen with federal funding, which is why we did not enact them at the end of the year. And as such, they're, we have removed it from the budget for 2021. And part of that was due to the sensitivity that, we had not yet notified the employees. And so, we did not feel that putting that list out without going through the proper protocols with our employees was right.
Exercise in faith. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really, if we're going to vote, I really don't have to speak. If somebody else is going to speak, I'll speak. But if we're going to vote,
go ahead, Alderman.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, first of all, I commend everyone that's involved. I think this has been the most active budget that we've ever had. I've never seen my colleagues work so hard with trying to come up with solutions. I've never seen the outside industries to work so hard to come up with different ideas. I commend the three ladies who's doing this. I think they've been very creative. Matter of fact, they have changed some things. The capital improvement thing wasn't even there at first. And the mayor and administration brought that up to satisfy us, to allow us to be able to bring something back to our community and make some improvements and hopefully help to bring up property values in our communities with new infrastructure in those communities. But also at the same time, folks have come up with other ideas. And I've seen these ladies consider those things and put them in place. What they were and have been able to do, they've been able to adjust. And we appreciate that. I hope, and I know that even as we talk, I know that there are some colleagues that got a couple of things in the hopper. I know one colleague is trying to do something with selling more vacant land in the city, and I commend that, and I think that's a great idea. I know another colleague is trying to do something with trying to come up with a new tax on some other businesses, and I understand that. And I just hope that as we proceed on, and I pray to God you know, after they use this vaccine on people and people health get better and our economy come back on track, that we have enough money to be able to go back on what we are about to do here. But at the same time, you know, we have to have a balanced budget, and we have to do something. We cannot not do anything. We have to do something. And I think that, you know, these ladies have done the best that they can do, but they're not saying no to other ideas. They're still keeping their eyes open and their ears open. And, you know, I remember the marijuana thing wasn't even on the table. Some of us interject the marijuana taxes, and look, here we go. We got infrastructure because of that. So, you know, as we continue to go on, and as all of us continue to think about how we can put as least of a burden on ourselves and our constituents, because, you know, a lot of us are property owners. You know, some of us own more than one property, you know, and God knows we don't want to pay any more taxes. But at the same time, we know that our city still have to function, and we have to function in the best way that we can. And public safety is the biggest part of this budget, streets and sanitation, and we got to do what we have to do. So I just want to say again, I should say Kamsamida, Shay Shay, and Dundevad, to the three ladies. Thank you all very much for what you all have done. I thank the administration for listening to us and allowing us to push the envelope, right? And not saying no, and listening to the caucuses and listening to everyone to try to make this thing work. And I also commend the two chairmen, Alderman Pat Dow and also Alderman Wagerspack, of taking all of our interests and concerns back to the administration. And man, I see so much activity, so much work being done, so much positive energy. I just think this is a great exercise for all of us. And it shows that all of us really care about our community, our constituents, and ourselves, right? And so I just want to say thank you all for everything that you're doing. This is very hard. And I tell you, if you look around the country, probably if you look around the world right now, if you look around the world right now, the whole world is going through what we are going through. Just like we're not getting income from restaurants and stores and all of those things and hotels, guess what? All over the world, it's the same thing. We're not in this by ourselves. But at the same time, we have to do something to keep our city flowing and going. And I feel as though after we get this vaccine and people get better, and now we have a great president coming on board, I think our city is going to get better. We're going to get more money. And I hope that once we do get more income, that we'll be able to scale back on some of these things that we're proposing now to help our constituents and the people in the city of Chicago. So again, I just want to say thank you all very much. And that's not just to you three ladies, not just to the mayor, it's to all of my colleagues. Thank you all very much for speaking up and standing up for the people in the city of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Alderman Harris.
Alderman Harris renews her motion to approve item 2.
Roll call, please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion for approval of item number 2 by roll call vote. And I apologize, my internet connection is a little unstable, but I will call the roll, and if you can't hear me, I will go back and just point out if you couldn't hear me. All right, roll call on item number 2. Alderman Hopkins.
No.
Alderman Dowell.
Yes.
Alderman King is not present. Vice Chair Hairston.
Yes.
Alderman Sawyer.
Aye.
Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Sadlowski Garza. Alderman Garza.
Aye.
Alderman Thompson.
No.
Alderman Cardenas.
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
No.
Alderman Burke.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Moore.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little delay, folks, so I'm taking like 1 or 2 seconds to hear your voice. Apologize for that. Alderman Curtis.
Aye.
Alderman O'Shea.
No.
Alderman Brookins.
Aye.
Alderman Tabarez.
No.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett.
Aye.
Alderman Irvin.
Aye. Sorry.
Okay. Alderman Taliaferro. Alderman Raboris.
Aye.
Yeah, I think that was an aye. Chairman Wagasback is an aye. Alderman Austin.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz.
Aye.
Alderman Spizzato.
Aye.
Alderman Napolitano.
No.
Alderman Riley.
No.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Tunney.
No.
Alderman Osterman.
Aye.
And Alderman Silverstein.
No.
Chairman, I make a
Um,
motion to reconsider the vote.
Can we give Mitchell and Villegas on?
Hold on, Alderman Dow, hold that motion to reconsider for a second. Alderman Mitchell? I couldn't hear you.
Vote.
Okay. Alderman Taliaferro? Alderman Villegas?
Alderman Talafero's on. Sorry, I had to step away, Chairman. I had an emergency call come up.
That's okay. Alderman Villegas, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Aye.
Alderman Wagasback, did you get Alderman Garza's vote?
Yes.
Yes, I did. 21.
Did you get Taliaferro's vote?
Yeah, Chairman,
I
I
did.
missed the vote. I had to step away for an emergency phone call. What was the vote that was up, please?
This was on item number 2, and you voted yes.
I did. I already told you I voted yes on it.
Yes, you did. That's okay. Let me just check my count. Yeah, I have 21 yes and 12 no, and a motion to reconsider by Alderman Dowell. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, say aye.
No.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion has passed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me 1 second to.
Well, doesn't the motion, excuse me, Chairman, doesn't the motion to reconsider
Fails.
fail?
It fails. The vote on the roll call passes. The motion to reconsider fails. Thank you, Chairman Sawyer. I think that was true.
Mr. Chairman Wagasback, I think they said that because you said on a motion to reconsider, the ayes have it, when you should have said the nays have it.
The noes have it. Yes.
Chairman Wagensback, I'd like to be recorded present for the quorum. I missed the vote. I had technical problems to determine the quorum.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'll put you on there.
Thank you.
Chairman, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my paperwork here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're now going to move out of the regular order. We're moving to item number 4, an ordinance that
Chairman,
would
would you
authorize.
announce the results of the roll call, please?
Yes, it is 21-12.
Thank you.
On item number 2. 21-12. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, moving out of the regular order of business to item number 4. This is an ordinance that would authorize amendments to various sections of the municipal code, aka the revenue ordinance. Budget Director Park, CFO Bennett, and various department heads are with us today to answer your questions. And with that, I will hand it off to Budget Director Park.
Thank you, Chairman. The revenue ordinance before you consists of amendments to various sections of the Municipal Code of Chicago. This includes Article 1, Section 1, cloud tax increase to personal property lease tax on cloud computing from 7.25% to 9%. Article 1, Section 2 is the elimination of rideshare subsidy to CTA. This is included in ordinance increasing rideshare fees in 2018. This removes this $16 million subsidy to CTA beginning in 2021. Article 1, Section 3 is the ground transportation loophole repeal. Under the current law, ground transportation providers, primarily rideshare companies, may claim a credit on their annual return of 50% of taxes paid on trips occurring in underserved areas. Because of the structure of this credit, which occurs with an annual filing, it does not create an incentive to provide trips in underserved areas for drivers. Article 1, Section 4 is for vehicle fuel. This increases the vehicle fuel tax on non-aviation fuel from 5 cents a gallon to 8 cents a gallon. The vehicle fuel tax on aviation fuel will remain at 5 cents per gallon due to a grandfather clause in federal regulation. Article 1, Section 5 is the Consumer Price Index, CPI, for property taxes. This creates a CPI adjustment to the overall property tax levy for the purposes of funding the city's growing pension obligation. Adjustment is calculated using the national CPI for all urban consumers over the most recently completed December to December period with a cap at 5%. Article 2, Sections 1 through 7 is for parking meters, and it adds parking meters in select locations throughout the city. Article 3, Section 1 is various adjustments to harbor permit fees and fines. This updates fees and fines related to harbor permits and navigation. Article 4, Chapter 1 is a code correction to suspension of charges on water billing. This clarifies that a pause of water service is not a termination for billing purposes. Article 4, Chapter 2 is creation of the lead service line replacement program. This provides the Commissioner of the Department of Water Management the power to administer the lead service line replacement program, which will provide a fee waiver of up to $3,100 for homeowners who choose to replace their lead service line themselves, and also creates a grant program for income qualified homeowners to have their lead service line replaced. Article 5 is impoundment for reckless driving during funeral processions. It reinstates provisions for impounding vehicles for reckless driving during a funeral procession. Article 6, Section 1 is the emergency transportation service fees and payments. This provides the comptroller with the authority to waive fees and set payment plans via rules for persons receiving public ambulance services. Article 6, Section 2 is the commercial refuse containers. This adds an annual CPI adjustment to commercial refuse container permit fees. This adjustment will be based on the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers in the Chicago metropolitan area and is capped at 2.5%. And lastly is Article 6, Section 3, is the utility billing paperless incentive, which provides a one-time account credit for utility billing account holders that elect paperless billing. Credit will be based on the postage of mailing monthly bills to customers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Park. I just had one question for my own ward. Do you happen to have the updated number of meters that I would be getting in the 32nd ward? Actually, if you can just pass it through, send it to me through the chair, and I'll take a look at it. But I know we had another update, so just feel free to send it to me via email.
Okay, will do, Chair.
Alderman Harris.
Alderman Harris moves to pass on item 4.
If there are no further questions, I have a motion for approval by roll call, moved by Alderman Harris. We will now call the roll on number 4.
She said do pass.
I'm sorry, was that Alderman Moore?
She said, yeah, Alderman Harris said move do pass, and I second the motion.
And I'll,
Okay. I'm going to do a roll call on item number 4. All right. Alderman Hopkins.
No.
Alderman, was that a no?
Yes, I vote no.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just broke up. Alderman Dowell.
Yes.
Alderman King is not present. Vice Chair Hairston.
yes.
Alderman Sawyer.
Aye.
Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Garza. Alderman Garza.
Aye. Aye.
Alderman.
Hear me?
Alderman Thompson.
Did you hear
Alderman
me?
Thompson.
Back?
Yes, I did. Alderman Saldowski Garza, yes. Alderman Cardenas.
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
No.
Chairman, can you ask them to put the phone on mute if they're not speaking?
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, Alderman Quinn. You're a no. Alderman Burke.
This is can you hear me?
Yes, Alderman Thompson first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying, no, sorry.
Yeah, trying to say no.
I would just be clarified, because I
Trying to say no.
vote on 3.
I got you.
You're live.
Alderman Burke.
No.
Jesus.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Moore.
Yes.
Alderman Curtis.
Aye.
Alderman O'Shea.
Chairman, just to clarify, this is item number 4, correct?
Chairman Wagasback, you're frozen.
It's item number
Correct.
4,
Item
yes.
That's correct.
4.
No.
Okay, Alderman Brookins. Alderman Brookins. Okay.
Aye. Sorry.
Alderman Tabaris.
No.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett. Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett votes aye.
Alderman Irvin.
Alderman Irvin votes aye.
Thank you. Alderman Taliaferro.
Aye.
Alderman Boris.
Aye.
Chairman Wagasback is an aye. Alderman Austin.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Mitz.
Aye.
Alderman Spizzato.
Aye.
Alderman Napolitano.
No.
Alderman Riley.
No.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Alderman Tunney.
No.
Alderman Osterman.
Aye.
Alderman Silverstein.
No.
Okay. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Brookins. Okay. Hold on 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have 20 ayes and 12 nays. Alderman King not present.
Alderman, Chairman, motion to reconsider.
On a motion to reconsider by Alderman Dowell, all those in favor for the motion to reconsider say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the motion fails.
Chairman, can I ask for a point of clarification, please? So these numbers aren't adding up to me, are just people not responding? Is that why we're not getting the 35 that we have?
I did not have a response on one, so that's correct.
Because didn't we have 35 present, and the first one was 21 to 12, and this one was 20 to 12?
But they tell us not to answer.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I'm asking.
Villegas didn't answer.
Yeah, a
this
couple
time.
people did not.
Okay.
Villegas didn't answer.
That's all I'm asking. So some people didn't answer. Okay.
Alderman
Correct.
Plain and
Thank you.
simple. That's all I'm asking. The numbers
It's
didn't add up.
Alderman
Thank you.
Villegas trying to get in.
Thank you.
I got Alderman
That's all I
Villegas.
wanted to
Hold
know.
on a
Thank
second.
you. I didn't
Wait a
mean to start a ruck.
Chairman Watson.
Okay.
I'm on,
Alderman Villegas.
I'm on a couple of calls. I apologize. Yes.
And also take some advice from her as well.
Chairman, I offer to vote for Alderman Villegas if that helps.
No, sir.
You can make a response, Chairman.
Okay.
Chairman, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Chairman.
Yeah, let me move on to our next item. Give me 1 second. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for your patience. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm listening. I'm trying to sort through the voices that I hear and just want to make sure I get everybody that is asking questions. So we're now going to go back to item number 3. Item number 3 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance concerning the authority of the City of Chicago to issue general obligation bonds and additional sales tax bonds for various purposes, and the levy and collection of direct annual taxes. Here to explain the ordinance is CFO Jenny Bennett. And again, for these items, I would like to limit the members to 10 minutes. Non-members, you'll have 10 minutes too if you'd like to speak, and we'll circle it back for round 2 if need be. But we'll just try to keep the discussion going here. So with that, I'll hand it off to CFO Bennett. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Wagasback. The ordinance entitled Issuance of City of Chicago General Obligation Bonds and Additional Sales Tax Obligation Bonds for Project Costs and/or Refunding Purposes and Levy and Collection of Direct Annual Taxes authorizes the following: $1.92 billion in refunding and restructuring bonds to generate refinancing savings and budgetary relief. Based on current market conditions, the refinancing and restructuring currently generates 31 million in net present value savings. 430 million in additional refinancing candidates that may become attractive depending on market rates at the time of pricing, including potential tender candidates. 1.56 billion in new bond issuance to cover capital expenditures for 2020, 2021, and 2022. The expenditures include expenses for several categories, including annual programs, equipment, sidewalks and pedestrian right-of-way, aldermanic menu, bridge and viaduct program, street resurfacing, street lighting, traffic signals, complete streets, facilities, fleet and equipment, waterways, and cost of issuance, capitalized interest and premium on the bonds. The bonds can be issued as sales tax securitization corporation bonds or general obligation bonds of the city. With that, I'll turn the conversation back to Chairman Wagasback.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. So if you have a question, please raise your hand to be recognized. Alderman Tunney.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think this gets back to Alderman Lopez's question, the original Lopez, I should say, in regards to the debt. I know I've seen charts over the years over the total amount of debt, not the refinancing, just the debt per capita. Jenny, do you have a chart? I know I've seen it, but I don't have it in front of me. And then if we pass this bond, and you're talking about 1.56 billion of additional debt. That's correct? I would like to know, if we pass this, and maybe in your best estimate, what is the total debt per capita in the city of Chicago if we pass, what it is now and what it would be if we pass this?
In terms of the total increase in debt, that's 1.56 billion.
Where would that leave us in gross, and then divide by per capita?
In terms of total debt outstanding on GO and STSC post the refunding, that is approximately 11 billion in total, GO and STSC together. And in terms of debt per capita.
Is this after we pass this, if we pass it, and after we pass it? So
after we pass it, that's correct. It ends up being approximately sorry, I have to get this calculation for you in terms of the debt per capita.
Yeah, and that's my concern. No matter about refinancing and such, is the real debt that Chicagoans will owe. And God bless, we have ultra low interest rates, but I understand we're doing some machinations about refinancing, but I'm more concerned about the total debt load to the city of Chicago, because I know that under the Emanuel administration, he was heavily criticized for adding to the debt. And this seems to be only exacerbating that situation, regardless of what the interest rate is.
So as it relates to debt burden overall, I can speak to that. The city of Chicago debt burden as compared to other cities is basically right in line, especially when you consider large urban and more older urban type cities. And so as we compare ourselves to other cities across the country, on a debt basis, we are right in line. As it relates to overall debt burden per capita, I will have to get back to you on those.
Right. So we're in line before this or after this?
Both in line before and after. Our debt burden overall is moderate. When you consider total liabilities, including pensions, and I know we've had a lot of discussion around this, pensions are clearly an issue, but as it relates to debt burden itself, we're not, the worst in the country as we are with pensions.
That might be the state of Illinois, though. So, all right, that was my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Tunney. Alderman Burke? Ready? Alderman Thompson. Actually, Alderman Thompson, hold on. Alderman Burke? Okay, Alderman Thompson, go ahead.
You Chair, just, if you could please, for the record, I need to rule 14 out of abundance of caution. I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Let me just make note of that. Thank you. Alderman Lopez? Actually, Alderman Thompson, did you have any other comments, or you're okay?
No, that's that.
You can't comment on the actual. I got you.
What's that?
Alderman Lopez?
No, that's fine. No, Chair?
Yes, I hear you.
No, I just,
Go ahead.
when I got one of the banks, I have a cousin of mine who works at one of these investment banks. And so I just found out this morning when I got the sheet. So I would have told you earlier if I would have known. So
that's okay.
That
I got
abundant
you.
caution.
Yes. I got a delay here. Sorry. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry. Two quick things, if I may. Are the department heads that are impacted by this also on this call today, Chairman?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I can't hear you, but go ahead.
Sorry, Chairman. Can you hear me now? Actually,
yes, and I'm sorry. It's either yours or mine, but maybe both. But I can hear you now. Go ahead.
I will leave this if there are department chairs, department heads on this call. My question is, how was the capital plan that's not vehicle related, the infrastructure aspects of it, how was that created and how was that done without any consultation from the local aldermen that will be impacted?
I could start, and I think Commissioner Biaggi is on the call.
Whomever.
Commissioner Biaggi.
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. So, our capital plan was
Yes,
developed.
just state your name for the record and go ahead.
This is Commissioner Biaggi from CDOT for the record. Thank you for the question. And as we have done a series of hearings with many of you on the call about how the capital plan was developed from coming to you back in August in terms of the need and then how we went about determining the prioritization. So there are two big buckets with it. One, of course, is the menu bucket, and that's where we work with you closely, where we bring the information that we have on need, what we've seen through work orders, what we've heard from you directly, and we work on that together. In addition, the other bucket is a needs-based program, and that's that's bridges, streets, lighting, all of those major categories. And as you said, I'm not discussing the facilities piece for AIS. So primarily the data is coming from our pavement condition index, and that's a combination of where we've worked with IDOT to video the condition of our streets, but also assess them ourselves. It also looks at where we're seeing a confluence of service requests. So instead of filling 25 potholes over and over again, it triggers escalating a street into a category for resurfacing. In addition, we also, when it comes to lighting, for example, we've done extensive investigations into our lighting infrastructure needs. We couple that with what we hear from you in your offices in terms of need, what you're experiencing. And then there are also economic development related opportunities that coincide with some of the initiatives coming out of Department of Planning. That might be streetscapes and others. And I would add, though, it's primarily based on need, and that's the driver here. A bridge, for example, we have 70 bridges in a poorly rated condition. We've done extensive investigations and reports in that regard. So it's needs-based. It's based on investigation. We couple that with what we know from our service requests. We look at opportunities and coordination. And I should add, we also try to find where there are opportunities to leverage funds or to make sure we're making investments in places that might not have other levers, that might not have TIF or other opportunities. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. So the question that I have then relates to what I've heard as of late. And as actually now looking at the vote tallies, 1/3 of this committee has said no to some of the revenue options that were presented. Our mayor has notoriously said, don't ask us for crap in other terms. If we're not supportive, that means 1/3 of this committee has already been put on the do not ask list. Would that impact, what's the policy then moving forward in terms of prioritizing what you're trying to get us to pay for with item number 3, if that retribution has been put on the table and the gauntlet has already been passed?
Our process is the same as it has been in prior years, except now we have more funds to work with and a needs-based condition report that will dictate where our projects go. So in the same way that we sit down every first quarter with each alderman and we go over both menu, we'll actually also be able to go over a lot more in terms of where the high needs are in all of those categories. So that process will remain the same.
So the needs-based will outweigh whatever the political ramifications of the vote is. We're 100% committed to that, correct?
We're focused on a needs-based program, and we'll sit with every alderman and walk through it together. And we're looking at, prioritizing projects for the next several years.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Alderman.
Chairman.
Alderman Cardenas.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad we're talking about needs because I have a lot of needs. WPA streets, alleys and streets and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be very honest with the administration in terms of the heavy lifting that happens in the city, because that's what our residents and people voted for me to be an advocate for them, to take the tough votes, but also with the understanding that our community has to benefit from the outcome of what happens on when we're sitting at the table and decide on what gets spent and what doesn't get spent. So I'm glad we're having that discussion because it shouldn't be political. It should be about priorities. If I make you a priority, I hope you make me a priority. And I'll end with that.
Thanks, Alderman. Alderman Burke.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I tried to respond when you called on me earlier.
That's okay. I won't pass you up.
No, that's all right. But I don't know if you could have heard me. But earlier when Amanda sent me a email containing the documents that we've all received, I asked if I could be informed of what projects would be site specific to the 14th ward, because as Tip O'Neill said, all politics is local. And I'm still waiting for that listing. I know I'm literally awash in documents. In fact, I'm getting them as we speak. 11:31, there was another one just sent to me relating to this matter. But is there anyone that can tell me what site-specific projects relate to the 14th ward?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, and I know we've sent a list of projects, a summary to every single alderman. So I appreciate, though, that you've got a whole stack to look through, but we're happy to connect with your office directly and go through some of the more specificities. There are some categories, like I mentioned, in terms of where there's opportunity, for instance, defining where green alleys might go, defining some of the future streetscape projects. We want to do that together. So we'll be happy to circle back with your office with a team and walk you through it.
Well, yeah, but the vote is now. And I've asked for those proposals that affect the 14th ward? Can you tell me?
Yeah, so we will resend you the packet that we sent to the council and make sure we'll do it right now.
I did get a package of information, but it seemed to me to be relating to the entire city, not to the 14th ward. And I had a conversation with Amanda, and we exchanged emails, and she said, yes, we're going to get you a list of what site-specific matters are in the 14th ward.
Commissioner, do you recall what day you sent that? Because I got mine a few days ago. I think and just for a point of information, the information that was going out were the EDSs that our staff looked at as well, but that was the information that was coming out most recently. But I think Chairman Burke's looking for the specific document, and if you sent it, maybe you can check to see which date you sent his and resend it.
Sure, it was a transmittal from IGA, so it wouldn't have been from CDOT, but we'll circle back and make sure you get that.
Well, tell me why I didn't get an answer from IGA after she sent me the material and I asked to be specific. Just carve out for me those matters that were in the 14th ward.
Okay, well, let me see what was actually sent to you and make sure you have the right set of documents, and then we'll transmit to you what is specific beyond that. Some things will be determined when we sit down and talk about some of the priorities. That's a capital planning piece that we're trying to move the process up on this year. That will also determine some of the projects, but we're happy to provide that information to you. Let me connect with Amanda on what was sent, and we'll get you some right away.
Alderman Burke, mine, point of order there, mine came on Saturday, the 14th.
I probably got the same thing, but that was a citywide. And then I talked to Amanda and I said, can you tell me what specific 14th ward projects are going to be underway here? And I'm not trying to fault Amanda. She works very hard, but I just, there's so much material here that I'm sure I speak for everybody else, that there's no way you can plow through all this stuff. I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize it. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Alderman, I appreciate what you're saying. I think it is a lot to read, but I think we'd rather get it out there. And I think on the Saturday send, I'm just giving you for my point of information, it looked like it was on a second or third page. So the first page might have been a citywide, but if you want to swing back around, we can double check. Let me go to Alderman Burnett.
No questions, Chairman.
Alderman Mitz.
I wanted to know what would constitute a WPA street. What would constitute installation of a WPA street?
Yes, can you hear me? Hold on.
I can hear you.
Oh, good, okay. So WPA streets, of course, were generally installed by the Actual Works Progress Administration, and they didn't have all of the related stormwater infrastructure. They often have rolled curbs, all kinds of things. So it's a finite inventory, so we know where all of them are, and we know the ones that we have to do. We should probably get through about half of them in this 5-year period. They're very expensive. A block is about 600 grand a piece. And so what we've done is inventoried the condition, and through the capital planning process, we'll sit down with you and look at your WPA streets, if you got them in your ward, and talk about which ones to prioritize first. So we are looking at condition, but we want to work with you because there's a lot of coordination. If water department has a project coming up, we only want to tear up the street once, that kind of thing. So we'll be walking through that over the next month or two.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Osterman.
Thank you. Question for Ms. Bennett. Related to the bonding and the timing of when the bonds would go out, and related to potential infrastructure from the federal government. We can't, as we are here today, rely on the federal government for stimulus or infrastructure, but a federal infrastructure bill is long overdue. The question I have is, if that becomes a reality in the next year or two, is there the potential to use the funds that would come to Chicago to supplement the bonding and the debt that we would be using for this in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yes, Alderman, absolutely. We would,
I don't know if it was this.
Sorry, looks like somebody else is talking, but we are.
Please make sure you're muted, ladies and gentlemen.
We are looking to time the financings, both really the refinancing, restructuring, as well as the new money capital, until we have a better sense of the federal landscape.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there's no further questions, may I have a motion for approval of item number 3 by roll call?
Alderman Harris moves to approve item number 4.
Moved by Alderman Harris.
Second by Alderman David Moore.
I'll now call the roll as moved by Alderman Harris. And I have, starting out, I have Alderman Thompson, Rule 14. So, thank you. Alderman Hopkins.
No.
Alderman Dowell.
Yes.
Alderman King is not present. Vice Chair Hairston.
Yes.
Alderman Sawyer.
Aye.
Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Sadlowski Garza.
Yes.
Alderman Thompson is Rule 14. Correct. Yeah. Alderman Cardenas.
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
No.
Alderman Burke. Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Moore.
Yes.
Alderman Curtis.
Yes.
Alderman O'Shea.
Aye.
Alderman Brookins.
Aye.
Alderman Tabarez.
No.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett.
Aye.
Alderman Irvin.
Alderman Irvin votes aye.
Thank you. Alderman Taliaferro.
Aye.
Alderman Raboris.
Aye.
Chairman Wagasback votes aye. Alderman Austin.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas.
Aye.
Alderman Mitz.
Aye.
Alderman Spizzato.
Aye, and I don't know why it's so hard to figure out to mute your phones.
Alderman Napolitano.
No.
Alderman Riley.
Aye.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Alderman Tunney.
No.
Alderman Osterman.
Aye.
Alderman Silverstein.
No.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Alderman Mitchell.
Chairman, Alderman Riley wishes to be recorded now.
No? Okay. Alderman Riley. Alderman Mitchell. Alderman Mitchell. Okay. Alderman Burke.
No.
Thank you. Sorry, sir. I couldn't hear you the first time there.
Point of information, I did not hear Alderman Taylor's name called.
This she's not on the finance committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Couple more days. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 22 to 10. Now, Alderman Dowell on a motion to reconsider.
Yes, Chairman, I have a motion to reconsider. Was waiting for you to.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman Dowell's motion to reconsider. All those in favor for the motion to reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
All those
No.
opposed?
No.
Opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the motion fails. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 22 to 10 there. Hold on 1 second. Move on to the next item in just 1 second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to item number 5 on the agenda. Item number 5. Item number 5 is a communication recommending a proposed ordinance amending section 2-32-085 of the municipal code regarding charitable organizations eligible for contributions from the voluntary payroll deduction program. I want to recognize Alderman Derek Curtis. He's the sponsor of this ordinance. Alderman Curtis, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and distinguished colleagues. The Black Fire Brigade only been in existence for a little over 2 years. Since then, they put over 300 students citywide through an EMT training certification program at $1,000 a student. They don't get any outside funds. The money is raised only through other firefighters. I'm proud to say that out of these students that went through the program, all of them are working for ambulance service, or they're in an academy in the suburbs or other jurisdictions. Basically, I'm asking for your support. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Curtis. Did anybody have any questions for the Alderman or comments that they would like to add?
Mr.
Alderman
Chairman.
Lopez?
Oh,
Oops. Alderman Austin, is that you?
yes. Sorry, I forget about the raised hand. I'm sorry.
Okay. You go ahead, and then I'll go to Alderman Lopez. And then.
All right, thank you. I have attended several of the graduations of these cadets, and I would have to say that second to our own fire department, these young men and women are extraordinary. Whatever help that we can do in order to help the Black Fire Brigades, I think it is our obligation to help them, because they are helping the students that reside in all of our wards. It's not a color, it's just a student. And I want to commend Alderman Curtis for being so behind this graduation of these students, but the fire brigade and all of us that are part of this city council need to attend some of these graduations of these young adults, because these are our future firefighters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Austin. Alderman Lopez?
Thank you, Chairman. I too wish to rise in support and commend Alderman Curtis on recognizing the Black Firemen's Brigade. I've had the pleasure of being there for numerous events, a guest in the 18th Ward, a guest of Quentin Curtis, who just celebrated a birthday, I believe last week, if I remember correctly. They do wonderful things for our community, as Chairman Austin said, and I would actually ask if I could be added on. Alderman Curtis is willing as a co-sponsor as well in support of this ordinance.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you, Alderman Lopez. And as Alderman Lopez said, if anyone wishes to be added, I would just contact Alderman Curtis and via email and show your support for this fine ordinance here. Alderman Moore.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. With just echoing basically what Chairman Kerry Austin stated, as I too have attended, probably I think it was their first graduation, which was very not only well attended, but the fact that the young people truly benefited from it. So I want to commend Alderman Derek Curtis for bringing this forward, and everyone over at the brigade that help and work with these young people. It's a team of young people over there. Some a lot of firemen over there volunteering their time, a lot that people don't see, to make sure that this city is representative of what the fire department and our ambulatory services should look like. So I do as well be reaching out to you, Derek, as an email, so I can be a co-sponsor on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Dowell?
Yes, I just wanted to commend Alderman Curtis and thank him for bringing forward this ordinance. I also want to vouch for the Black Fire Brigade for their incredible inspiration that they provide to our young people who want to be firemen or paramedics, and their constant visibility within communities all over Chicago. This is a worthwhile effort, and I will be adding myself as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you, Alderman Curtis.
Thank you. Alderman Burnett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also, Alderman Curtis, like to be added as a co-sponsor. Coincidentally, myself and Quentin Curtis, who's over the fire brigade, grew up together. We actually went to grammar school together. And I remember when we were young kids, we used to laugh at Quentin and this other guy named Eric Sloss, because they used to follow the firemen all around, and they would have like their own little fireman outfits. And, and so if they see it, they can be it. And Quentin and Eric, they saw it. Quentin became a fireman. We're so proud of him, and now he's giving back. He grew up in Cabrini Green poor. I know his whole family, and we're so proud of him. We're so proud of seeing how he's giving back to the young people. Alderman Curtis, I commend you on doing this for them. This is a great organization, and we need to support organizations like this and more organizations that's helping young people to see that they can be something else instead of just seeing the negative things that they see on the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And Alderman Mitz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to be added as a co-sponsor and thank Alderman Curtis for his work. He brought the Black firefighters before us and I tell you, I'm grateful to him, and they don't even know it. I was trying to get a covert testing site from testing done in the community, and that's something I've constantly been talking. They heard my cry, so I'm all in. Anyone who wants to and live life, the right team working. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Alderman Curtis, for your leadership on this.
Thank you, Alderman Mitz. Next, we'll have Alderman Irvin and then O'Shea, and any other alderman who would like to speak in support of this or otherwise. Alderman Irvin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I too want to be added as a co-sponsor to this. I've seen the work of the Black Fire Brigade, not only in the community, but personally when my first cousin passed, who was a firefighter, just to see what they did to support our family, great organization, and want to be supportive of their activities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Irvin. Alderman O'Shea?
Thank you, Chairman. I too would like to be added as a co-sponsor. I'd like to recognize my friend and neighbor, Alderman Curtis, for his leadership on this. And I too know the good work of the Black Fire Brigade, as I have many members in my community. And I'm always a big supporter of any organization that wants to support families of firefighters and what they go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Harris?
I too want to commend my good friend Derek for doing this, Alderman Curtis for being a part and bringing this out and supporting them, and for everything that you do, Derek. I think this is such a worthy cause for the young people that are part of this organization and get to graduate from it. Thank you again, and I'd like to be added as a sponsor. co-sponsor.
Thank you. Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too wanted to add my voice to this resolution. The Black Firefighter Brigade are doing phenomenal work throughout the city. They're looking to expand throughout the city, and we're trying to help them expand. And so the work that they're doing to try to help young African Americans, get into the field of the fire department and things of that nature is really to be commended. So the work that they're doing is second to none, and we all should be joining hands and help uplift this organization to be more successful, to help more African Americans and people of color throughout the city. So thank you. And I too wanted to add my name to the resolution.
Thank you, Alderman Beal. Before I go to Alderman Scott, Alderman Curtis, if you could maybe have someone put together information for all of the aldermen that can be emailed, and so we can share that information with people in our communities. That would be helpful.
Will do. We'll put that together, have it in your mailboxes. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to commend my colleague, Alderman Curtis, for putting this forward, and I'd like to also be added as a co-sponsor. The great work that they do around the city, on the west side, on the south side, with our young Black folks should be commended. And so I appreciate you putting this forward, Alderman Curtis, and bringing this to the attention of the entire body. I know a lot of us in the African American community know about it, but to bring it forth so everybody knows, I think is really important. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other aldermen who wish to speak on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, Alderman Austin, I
Yes, Alderman.
gave my congratulatory, but I would like to also be added to the list of co-sponsors.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, may I have a motion for approval by the same roll call used to establish quorum?
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Moved by Alderman Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you, Alderman Curtis.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, items 5 and 6 on our agenda are for the payment of various small claims against the city, as well as the denial of various small claims against the city. May I have a motion for approval by the same roll call as used to establish quorum?
So moved. It should be items 6 and 7.
Sorry, my bad. I have items 6 and 7. Let me repeat that. Items 6 and 7 are for the various small claims against the city, as well as denial. And I have a motion for approval from Alderman Hopkins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for working with us. I know it's difficult to do some of these meetings on Zoom. It's really difficult for us to kind of just work through them and make sure we get everyone the information they need and be able to speak to each one of these items. So I want to thank each one of you for the robust discussion. This does conclude the meeting of the Committee on Finance. The time is now 12:21. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Alderman Scott.
Moved by Alderman Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.